because I think there's a lot of information to be shared. And I also was like, oh, but I don't have the time to set up everything perfect. And I was like, well, let's just start and we'll figure it along the way. And I think this is a lot of us, or I'll just speak from my own personal experience, that a lot of the time we have these like really cool ideas and we don't know if they're going to be successful or not. Have, like sometimes, oh, it's funny. Gosh, I was just thinking, like, I really wanted to do this live in the morning, when I feel the most energy and when I'm quite like a deep thinker in the mornings, I think, or just have like really interesting thoughts that I think are interesting. But also like the meds have kicked in and I have a lot of energy, so I think it's easier for me to focus. But what my mom always says, which is perfect is the enemy of good. And so this is day two of doing the live that I've been wanting to do for many years. And it's just 5 minutes a day of things that hopefully will bring value or that I find interesting worth sharing. One of them being like when you're in class or in a space where maybe you think you're the person that knows the least about the subject, some people could say, like, oh, I'd rather not ask a question because I don't want to look dumb. It is the fear of looking dumb. There may be valid reasons. Sometimes you do have sort of a PR role, that it kind of matters what other people would think of you because it might reflect on the company. If you hear that's Lucito, the dog. Um, but most of the time, asking questions is super important. I find it that when I'm learning something, if I don't really understand something and I move on, like, or the class moves on, what ends up happening is that I can't really let that question go. And I find it really hard to focus on what's coming on next. And then I'm thinking, well, should I hold on to this question? Should I ask it at the end? And then I'm like, well, what if somebody else has this question? Or what if this clarification then helps me understand the following points around? So it's just that balance of knowing, like, okay, is it okay to ask this question now and slightly interrupt the session? Or should I wait till the end? Usually the speakers themselves will like let you know, but also you can kind of gauge it from their um, how they react to that question. Another thing that can go in the same vein as asking questions is reading. Like, I was looking for specific answers when it came to like producing or production and how to create a business plan for a series. And I was like, well, surely I'll just go ask the people that have done it. And period. And the point was because in my mind, like, technology moves so quickly, the industry trends move so quickly that if I go and read a book, I'm not gonna have the full like wealth of knowledge than just talking with someone in the industry. Not only that, but by talking with someone in the industry, you're also networking. And also sometimes the information that you get is not like there's what people say, but also how they say it. And I think that can be extremely important as well. Because if someone's saying like, yeah, no, I love this career, it's really great, versus saying like, oh my gosh, like I get to do this and that, the words might seem, yeah, you get the point. So I didn't, yeah, and I just got this book out, and as for the reasons mentioned, I wasn't particularly thinking that it could be super helpful, but I was completely wrong. And in the sense that even though this book is from over 10 years ago, and obviously technology has changed so much, the landscape has changed so much just even in the last few months in the industry, but certain things still remain. And I think that ideally, the perfect situation would be like you've done an enough amount of research, you still have a lot of questions, and then you go to the experts once you have pretty solid base. Therefore, the quality of the questions and the kind of conversation that you can get to is top. So that's the ideal situation. But sometimes you just have this wonderful opportunity to be in front of an expert and you haven't had the time to prepare. Obviously, it's a case by case basis, but I'd rather err on the side of asking than not. Last example, we recently had a masterclass with Roger and James Deakins. And if you guys don't know who they are, they're a couple. Also, this was like, okay, I'll get into it in a second. So he's a cinematographer, super famous and awarded cinematographer. And she started as a script supervisor, and now they're a team. And so, kind of, she can help also translate what are like his needs in the like on set and stuff. And anyway, I don't know obviously the ins and out of their dynamic. They have a blog, to my understanding, at least they did in the past recent. And so there's a lot of information like on their work online. So it's such an honor really to have them be at the school, at the National Film and Television School all day. I mean, he studied there at the very beginning of the school. And he said also that back then the school was kind of like you could keep going if you wanted to. And now that the second years only have 11 weeks left, which I cannot fathom, I kind of wish it was, because the thing is, like, this industry, again, it changes so quickly. It's a bit tough as well. So to be able to go back to the school, and whether it's teaching or supporting or just being part of that environment, I think must be so enriching. If unless obviously you're doing exceedingly well, but even then, I think like Roger Deakins, he can just come back to the school and give back, which is incredibly generous. And I think something that really stood out from their talk, and I have these like negative thoughts of like, well, what if I like mess up? What if I say something that is not clear enough? What if I say something that offends someone? What if all the what ifs, about trying to protect myself from a potential failure, because that would be terrible. But life is short. Like, my whole body is hurting so much. I realize, I'm not getting any younger, and why limit what life could be? I do get a lot of joy from watching other creators. No, Lucito, don't do that. Lucito, don't do that. He's just scratching his like pillow. Um, because last time he did that freely, he like not hyperventilated, but started like reverse sneezing for dogs, which is not nice to look at, and trying to figure out what was going on. But yeah, they came to give a talk, and that was really cool. And I didn't ask a question because I thought it it would be silly. I thought it would be a silly question, and I don't normally am a person to shy away from asking a question. But this is a super packed auditorium, and again, I've asked questions in super packed auditoriums, so I guess the point was that I felt sort of out of my comfort zone in terms of like, wow, like these are like, top technical and artistic people, and this room is full of top technical and artistic people, and I just didn't think my question would be like correct. Let's say, is there a correct question? And and I didn't ask it. And then in when we all went out, I asked the question to the girl sitting next to me. And she was like, "Oh yeah, I would have wanted to know that." The question was just some notes or advice or comments on how you shoot for a comedy. So yeah, there we go. Like, what is the worst that could happen? Like, he's like Roger is very like direct in his answers. He could literally, if the answer to a question is yes or no, like just one syllable, he'll just say it. So yeah, I mean, so what? Yeah, it's just about taking opportunities. So yeah, ideally, obviously, one gets to do a lot of research beforehand, but if one doesn't, just I guess go be brave and use your criteria, like your, like your brain. It's like, is this okay or not? But that's it. That's it for today. I hope this live has been helpful. My goal is to do 5 minutes a day at the very least. And let me know if there's something that I could talk about that perhaps is more helpful.